the main event, which is the big boys, which I was shocked when I saw this because of all the Tom Aspinall. I want to take it easy. I want to take it slow. And all of a sudden, Alexander Volkov gets dropped on your lap and he said, I can't turn it down. This is a fight. I mean, Volkov, the nearly man, I want to call him. He seems to get to that last hurdle and always fall. You know, he beats the guys ranked maybe 8 to 15, no problem. The Tyburas, the Harrises. I'm not going to mention Greg Hardy, but like all the rest of them. He had a really good run before he faced Derek Lewis for the first time, and he was beating Derek Lewis for pretty much 15 minutes until the last 10 seconds. He got kind of exposed to me with how he's not Stefan Struve in the fact that he likes to fight in the pocket, but he doesn't use the range to full effect. And that's always a worry for me when you've got someone that like 6'8", 6'7", 80-inch reach plus, and they like to, and they bend, you know, they're fighting like this instead of like this. And that to me is a big worry, especially with Tom, because Tom is, how do they do it in jiu-jitsu? You got the green zone and the red zone, haven't you? You know, you want to be furthest away or closest as possible. And Tom is exactly that. He's never there to be hit. He's always here or he's always here. He's got excellent submissions. He doesn't panic. And when he couldn't finish Arlovsky, he went, okay, he's got a concrete brain. I can't finish him. I'm just going to take him down. It was the easiest decision of his life. And he didn't even have to get a hook. He just grabbed his neck. The intelligence levels here for Tom and Volkov, I think, are going to favor Tom massively. I don't know. The only issue for me is it too big a step too quickly for him? Because we haven't seen him go, 3 rounds. We haven't even seen him go to a decision, even in his Cage Warriors days. When I saw him live, Cage Warriors, he's just, he's leg kicking people to death. Just, he's too good. So do you think this is almost the perfect fight for him? Because he was scheduled to face a Bubakar, wasn't it, on this card? Who's now facing... Oh, who's he facing? Who's the other guy? But yeah, do you think it's the perfect test for Volkov, or do you think it's the perfect test for Tom at this point?
I think it is a big step up for sure, but I also think it's quite a forgiving opponent in a lot of ways, because Volkov is one of the taller fighters in the division. When he fought Struve, he looked like the taller fighter in there because, as you said, Struve likes to fight in close. And I think Volkov used that against him very well. He was able to manage the range and distance really nicely. He did the same thing against Walt Harris. Those front kicks to the midsection were vicious. And I think that if Volkov's able to play a long-range fight and Tom takes a bit of while to get started, then he could find himself stifled on the end of those shots. And if I'm Volkov, I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's not done 5 rounds. He's largely unproven in the later rounds, which is where I want to push him. And Volkov is a long-range fighter, a long range in the sense of his reach and his height, but also long range as in he's quite happy to use 25 minutes to beat you. And he will slowly dismantle you. He's not in any kind of rush to finish. He has got a lot of finishes on his record, but of recent years, he has a lot more decision wins. He's outpointing guys, which is forgiven in the sense that it will give Tom plenty of time to put his foot on the gas and make an impact. But at the same time, he's not going to be getting in there and, putting it on Tom and really blasting him out of there, which is quite forgiving in some ways. Like, imagine if they'd have given him Derek Lewis, that could be a very, very different fight, but not nearly as forgiving, because at any moment you can get caught. I don't think that Volkov presents that same kind of threat. He's technically very good and he has got some finishing capability, but it's nothing that's going to happen in a split second and take Tom by surprise. And Tom's got great footwork and great movement. He's going to be able to move in and out of range on Volkov and nullify that reach advantage. And because, Volkov's going to be aware that Tom can ground him and can use grappling as well to test him, it's going to make Volkov a bit more respectful of Tom, I think. His speed, his athleticism, and his well-roundedness. Usually Volkov is dealing with someone and he knows where he beats them. He knows he beats Walt Harris in the striking range, and Walt Harris is probably not going to be able to take him down. He knows Derek Lewis is looking for that one big, massive shot. And as long as he stays away from it, he's all right. I mean, he wasn't able to, but the point still stands. I think there's going to be a long window of opportunity here for Tom to find his moment. And as long as he doesn't get outpointed in the first couple of rounds and get discouraged, I think it's a great opportunity for him. Volkov is is that litmus test for the top 5, in my opinion. You know, if you get through Volkov, you're like, okay, this guy's going to contend for a belt at some point in the future. It's a great opportunity for Tom. You know, everything I've heard coming out of him, he's very confident. He's very, very realistic about what he's up against. But I don't think at any point he's going to feel like he's outmatched by Volkov.
Do you think it's a fair assessment to say he's very similar to Cyril Gane in movement, as Volkov really struggled with Cyril's movement in that, you know, the darting in and out, not quite karate, but it's that kind of point fighting, dart in, hit 1-2s, back out, get out of range again, work the low kicks. And again, lateral movement was so key in that fight. Every time Volkov, you know, stepped forward, plodding forward almost, marching forward, just wasn't even there. Just, okay, had to reset. And again, it's not, you know, it took him completely out of his comfort zone. But I like to call Tom Cyril Gane with Jiu Jitsu. So, because that is effectively what he is to me. He's the fastest heavyweight by a country mile from what I've seen. I think he unloaded about 25 punches against Arlovsky when he hurt him. Different standard of opponent here. Obviously, he's not going to get a chance to unload 25 punches, I think, against Volkov. But the power is definitely there. He's got the killer instinct. I don't think someone like Cyril does. Cyril kind of like cruises. He gets into second gear, doesn't he? Just kind of takes it all the way. Whereas Tom, oh, you're hurt. I'm going to finish you. Done. He sees red and he's like, okay, I can get him out of here. I'm not going to let it go that far if I don't have to. But to me, yeah, if it hits the deck, I don't see how Tom is, you know, his dad runs the jiu-jitsu program down at Calburn, doesn't he? So he's been doing that. That's his bread and butter, even though he likes to stand and bang. So it's so hard for me to, I'm trying to be so unbiased because there's so many English fighters. But when I look down the card, I'm like, English wins, Scottish wins, English wins, all the whole way through. So, but I'm just trying to think of ways that if I was Volkov, how I would exploit Tom. And the only way I can think of is keeping at range and pity patter him. Because as soon as you set yourself up for that big shot, Volkov, again, doesn't use the range for the big shot. He steps in and Tom's in. And that almost how you can get into Derek Lewis's range. You step in, he's then got the range to just explode on you. He doesn't have to do anything. If that makes sense. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I mean, Cyril Gane's a good fighter to liken him to in some ways, but I would say he's somewhere between Cyril Gane and Derek Lewis, given the fact that he's got the movement and technical ability, but he has also got the heavy hands. So if he does want to put somebody away, he can. Now, the difference is Cyril doesn't ever commit real power to his shots, which means that he's never committed to being in range and staying there to get counter shots. So he is in and out, and he is very kind of light and fleet-footed, which was very difficult for Volkov.
Yeah.
If Aspinall could replicate that kind of movement and force Volkov to kind of plod forward and chase him, then the moments where Tom steps in, he can either pepper him with a couple of light shots and move, or he can step in and really crack him with something hard. So he'll be able to do it as quick as Cyril did, but also as maybe not quite as powerful as Derek Lewis, but certainly fight-ending power in those punches. So I honestly think that this is a. I mean, I think Tom's a more well-rounded threat than Cyril. I think what Cyril is good at, he's very, very good at, and I don't think Tom is probably as fleet-footed as Cyril. He is quick and he does have fast hands, but I think he forgoes some of that technical point fighting style to add a bit of power to his game. And honestly, I think that's a benefit to him anyway. It's just, I mean, this is a big step up. Volkov's got a massive amount of experience. He's fought UFC vets all the way through his career. But then every time we've seen Tom step in there, it's like, oh, we're going to need somebody else. These guys aren't good enough, Like when he broke Sofian Bukchu's leg in Cage Warriors, like the big overwhelming disappointment was like, oh, we kind of need to see him fight a bit longer. It's like we're always a little bit unfulfilled because we never see him get tested. It's a good thing because he's cruising through the division comfortably, but the bad point is that we don't know. We've not seen him rally. We've not seen him struggle yet. And someone like Volkov could potentially put him in those circumstances. So it's a big test, a huge test. But, main event in London, he's fighting a guy that everybody knows. This is going to be a real celebration for Tom Aspinall. And he's just a very calm, mature individual. He's got a real strong mindset. And as you said, his dad's been coaching him grappling since he was a kid. He's got Colin Heron there with him all the time. He's been sparring with Tyson Fury. there's a lot of good things in Tom Aspinall's camp and in his life at the moment, and this is a great chance for him to introduce himself to the top of the division.
So I'm assuming you're picking Tom in it as well.
I am picking Tom, yeah, but I mean, I can be a little bit biased now because I won't be sitting octagon side, so I can enjoy it more as a fan, and I do, I am rooting for Tom because he is a great guy, he is a great, well-rounded mixed martial artist, and we very, very rarely see good guys coming out of the UK at heavyweight and doing well. Like Tom may be one of these guys that can bring a belt back to the UK at some point in the next couple of years. The heavyweight division's really tough, but if he figures out and solves the problem of Volkov, that's something that most people in the division can't do, and that will certainly make people pay attention. Like that's when you start moving him on to the likes of Curtis Blades or Derek Lewis afterwards, and that's really when it starts to get serious for Tom.
Yeah, perfect.